Hello, hello. GM, how are you? Isaac, Han, welcome.
Hello, hello, Eliana. How are you? How are you, Hung?
Everything
Hey, good
fine
morning, Isaac
here.
and Eliana. Hi, guys. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect.
Lovely voice as always, Hung. So let's give it a couple minutes to let more people trickle in, and then we'll get the show started.
Great.
Roger, Roger.
Okay. Let's get the show started then. Today is a great show because we're going to talk many things related to RIS, our RIS and base deployment, RIS 101 for those not familiar still with the isolated markets that we launched last week. But first of all, Hung, who certainly has the RIS, how are you feeling today, my friend?
Hey, on top of the world, Isaac. Just following your lead.
Contrary to
I,
market conditions, you are feeling happy and bullish and strong.
yeah, very, very detached.
Excellent,
Blissfully
cool.
detached.
How about you, Eliana? How are you feeling today?
Very excited for the show and also for all the campaigns that we are hosting.
Yes, absolutely. And Eliana is our winner, head of wins, head of prizes, and she will be disclosing the golden question winner, as always, later today in the show. And that goes, of course, for the best question received just before, so prior to our AMA. And we always pick one of those questions, and that is the golden question for the AMA. So if you haven't sent your question for today's AMA, it's too late now, but it's not too late for the next AMA in 1 month. So keep an eye on that. And we will be sharing details on, of course, the RIS campaign on Galaxy. We came up with a cool name, hopefully a cool name. It's RIS Up Crypto, and that's the campaign that went live yesterday. We will be sharing more details on that campaign. You can go check it. Check the link on our socials and go check out the Galaxy campaign with lots of protocols collaborating to boost and to engage everyone, not only on RIS, mainly on RIS, of course, but also on some other cool features the protocols have boosted in Radiant. So we will be explaining more about that. But first things first, RIS and base. And what do you want to start with, Hung? Let's pick one of those, base or RIS, to analyze the performance, how they've performed over the first days of being live. Which one do you want to pick?
Hey, maybe we knock a base out. One's just simple and by
Okay,
kind of on his own. Yeah.
okay, go for it then. Let's you feeling based? So let's go for base. So as everyone knows, we launched base some 3 weeks ago, and well, the numbers have been very strong. The performance during the first days went super quick, super fast in terms of TVL. You can go and check, of course, the assets that are supported there, and it's not only the core markets that are on base, but base is going to be the next market where the next chain where Radiant launches RIS. So we currently have Riz live on Arbitrum, of course, and the next chain up for grabs is Base, and that will be live shortly. We're pending some issues related to the assets, final recommendations, checking that everything is ready, and that should be live. If there's no other problem, the current game plan is to launch either end of this week or during next week. So, Hung, what are your first impressions, your bottom line analysis of the performance of Radiant? That's the core markets on Base that we launched 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think Base quickly within just 3 weeks is our second strongest chain, so that was worthy, expanding to. So it's Arbitrum then Base, and I think BNB next. So it was great. It's great to be adding stuff that are already proven to have the adoption and TVL. I think it's 40 plus million now.
Absolutely, it was great to see, especially the speed with which the TVL was reached. Actually, we ranked among some of the top protocols in terms of TVL growth, thanks primarily to Base, which was an ecosystem the community dearly and strongly voted in favor of some months ago when we decided to move to Base. That, to be honest, was of course the hot Base season with meme coins, strong trends, lots of TVL into Base. Of course, the market has become more challenging ever since, but still, Base has picked up good steam and is showing good performance. And in our particular case, in the case of Radiant, is showing very, very strong performance. Of course, great to be part of the Arby ecosystem and the Optimism ecosystem, Base being an Optimism stack chain, especially these days that we are discussing everything and we're hearing news about the super chain and stuff. So that is great in terms of performance for Radiant. Of course, the assets listed on the core markets of Base are ETH, Rapti ETH, CB ETH, so that's the stake version of ETH from Coinbase, USDC, and Lido's Wrap Stake ETH. So those are the assets that are currently listed. If you're interested, go check them out. Of course, all of them are receiving not only the base yield, but the Radiant boost on top of those yields if you're eligible. And Rapti ETH is also receiving the extra yield, of course, coming in the form of points from EtherFi, EigenLayer itself, and as I said, the Radiant emissions and the Base staked APR. So the yields are displayed in the UI. If you're interested in any of those markets, go check them out. That's as far as Base is concerned. So that's regarding Base. And now moving on to Riz. Riz was, of course, launched on Arbitrum first, and then we will be staggering the launch of Riz on other chains. So the next one will be Base, as I was mentioning, potentially end of this week or during next week. Then we will either be launching BNB or mainnet. That will be still pending the final decision. Some aspects to review from the dev side and BD side, but anyway, those will be the next chains we launch on. And of course, Riz picked up good numbers and good level of TVL, not as strong as Base, but we are doing many improvements on Riz. The first was adding RDNT and ARB incentives that boosted the TVL in the first days after launch, and we want to keep adding assets. That's the philosophy of Riz. Many people in the community have, of course, expressed the proposal of new assets, new tokens to be added to Riz, and we wanted to explain and clarify how the process for any new asset works in terms of being added to Riz. Of course, Arbitrum is not the chain for meme coins. It's not like, of course, Solana or Base or even Mainnet. It's strong in other aspects. There are interesting meme coins, but it's not the meme coin chain. So meme coins that were eligible for Riz were not found on Arbitrum, but they will be part of Riz on the other chains. Important to know that currently, the current implementation of Riz, and that will evolve, of course, down the line, requires the tokens that we add to RIS to have either a chain link price feed or PIF price feed. So those are the two oracles that we currently support, so that assets can be directly integrated and spun up into RIS. That will add more oracles. We will add more oracles down the line. The dev team is working on that, but currently it's Chainlink or Pyth. Surprisingly enough, there are many degen risk on assets that already have a Chainlink price feed or a Pyth price feed. It's important to bear in mind that even though RIS is more risk on. We are not targeting the super exotic, low market cap, long tail assets that some of the most degen of our users may be super fan of. But of course, we're not going to tackle those assets, not on risk, because even though it's an isolated market environment, we're still targeting risk on degen assets, but with a sufficient amount of market cap, liquidity, decentralization, and price feed quality. So that's, of course, much more flexible, and the threshold is much, much lower than for the core markets. That's the whole point behind risk, to allow more risk on assets to be added, but it's not like super crazy, exotic assets that have been deployed 3 days ago. So that's not the aim of risk. But the aim is to be able to start adding more and more risk on assets. The idea behind adding the assets that we added on Arbitrum and the first batch that is planned for each of the chains is to have robust assets which are not, even for risk, which are not super risk on, so which are the safest, so to say, or the more risk off of the potential risk assets, because we wanted to analyze performance, especially on Arbitrum. But we will be including meme coins soon on Base, BNB, and Mainnet, and we will be including more and more hot tokens, more and more risk on assets, bearing in mind the criteria, the thresholds that I was mentioning, the guidelines. So that said, anyone from the community can, of course, propose any new asset they are keen on supporting on risk, and the devs will analyze essentially the price feed and certain technical parameters, mostly the price feed, and then Chaos Labs will analyze the liquidity, decentralization, and other related risk parameters to share the recommendation on whether we should add the asset to risk and with which risk parameters we should add it. So essentially, for example, now we have the recommendations for Arbitrum. Those are being reviewed and updated. For example, we increased, doubled the caps on RSE than EZE because we were evaluating that the TVL inflow was strong enough and they were stable enough and responding well, so we could raise those caps. By the way, these two assets, these two LRTs, could eventually find their way onto the core markets themselves. And as for Base and the other chains, the same thing applies. So we analyze from a technical perspective, and the team at Chaos Labs reviews from a risk param perspective. So the intention is to gradually add more and more risk on assets to all the chains. It will not be crazy assets, as I was mentioning before, but more risk on assets. And any assets that you, as a community member, are keen on adding, just feel free to post on social, share, and our team will be super swift to analyze those. The main aim is to jump on board the hot narratives, the new strong narratives in crypto quick enough so that the assets that we are keen on listing are listed on RIS super quickly. So the whole RIS architecture, without needing for governance proposals for each asset, that is designed to allow for new assets to be listed super fast on RIS. So that's an overview of Base and RIS. Now we will dive deep into the RIS 101. But Hung, I wanted to pick your brain and gather your thoughts on feedback. What do you see from your perspective on the regarding RIS performance over this first nearly 1 week that RIS has been live already?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the overview in details as well. So my sense of the risk markets, it's been around now just a week. Just gained about 4 million in TVL. I mean, I think this is a phase zero of risk in my mind, right? I think as a lending market that has always been dealing with blue chips and stable coins, as innovative as Radiant is or was, and this is an innovative step, but it is a measure step. I think we're talking about two restaking ETH assets and Zero, which is a major partner. So it's still kind of reflective of a bit of a partnership centric. Even though when you're trying to get on to the Riz isolated markets, there's two goals, right? The first one is to catch the hot narrative assets, right? I think Zero and the RLTs in RS ETH and Easy ETH they do that. They do catch on that the hot LRT trend, but there is a competitive market, right? A lot of places are servicing supporting these assets. So we're getting into it. I think the next phase of assets that come on, and I think we wanted to get as much as 100 assets onto these ISO markets. Those will be a little like you mentioned, more risk on, but largely we'll hope that these that we're bringing on next would be the ones that don't have a home somewhere, but there's plenty of that liquidity running around. That's what we want, right? We want the hot narrative, but we also want the ones that don't have a lot of competition, that the market is crying for a place to find a home for to lend them and leverage, whether it's long or short, right? So that's that. I think this opens that up. Some of the stuff we're seeing here may end up going also to the core market at some point because they're relatively safe. So this is the I think demonstrate the ability for us to get onto this game, right? Set it up. Let's make sure we don't make any mistakes, and then it's scaling after this, right? And that's so the next step is not about the novelty of launching something new. We would be weeks into this before we add some more high flying, high risk, high reward type of asset that haven't found home in too many places. This is the exciting part. So next month or two, we will prove, I think, better than this initial us getting into the game. So it's excited.
So thanks for that, Hung. Absolutely, and very interesting that you pointed out, of course, that this is like the first version to make sure that we can start battle testing risk, and then we will go more risk on. And huge thank you, of course, to everyone from the community who was suggesting new assets that could be listed in risk. So I just wanted to clarify like the general framework of the guidelines and the requirement to have at least Chainlink and Pyth price feeds. Other than that, it's super easy to spin up a new market, and we will be seeing some exciting new assets. A bit of alpha I can leak today regarding Arbitrum actually is that we're working on listing. We hope we will be able to list by this week. Otherwise, it will be next week. A new cool token. I cannot disclose the full name, but I will say that the protocol starts with a P for people. So that's just a small clue, a teaser of what could come this week or the following week. New asset coming to Riz on Arbitrum, and this is one of the assets already following this narrative, this trend that both Hung and myself were commenting of more risk on assets demanded by the DeFi space and assets that don't have many homes currently in DeFi to go and supply those assets and earn some extra yield. So that's regarding Riz and Riz on Arbitrum specifically, and a bit of alpha that we can leak at this moment. The devs are busy working because we found a business opportunity and we're trying to launch that hopefully this week, but it's not that easy as it's not as easy as it seems, but hopefully this week, otherwise next week. So that's regarding Riz and Base, some upcoming features, and Hung was mentioning, for example, leveraging regarding any of the assets that can be supplied, the more risk-on assets, of course, that can be supplied on Riz. One-click strategy to leverage will be available soon, so that is being audited. The audit actually started this week. So hopefully it doesn't find any major issues and the devs can fix those real quick, and then it can be deployed. So one-click strategies basically will allow anyone to perform leveraging, so longing or shorting of any of the supported assets on RES with one click. So, for example, if you want to go long on Zero, you feel that there's a lot of upside, that the price of Zero is going to go up. If that's your feeling, and you want not only to be exposed by having the asset itself, but you want to go more risk on, more degen, and you want to leverage, you could, of course, manually deposit Zero, borrow USDC on RES, go swap USDC for RES somewhere else, deposit the new Zero back onto the markets, and repeat this cycle to increase your exposure to Zero, in this case, longing Zero. That will be performed with one click to make sure that it's super easy, super UX friendly, and super seamless for anyone. You can pretty much the same way that you do for the looping. You can select the amount of the level of leverage that you want, if it's a 2x, 3x, whatever, and you can one click leverage long or short for any of the assets supported on RIS. That, of course, will apply to any new assets that we add. An additional feature that we are working very closely with Chaos Labs. Once again, it sounds very simple to implement, but it's not that simple to build. Once you start checking like all the minor details, security vectors, and everything that has to be implemented to make sure that it can be updated automatically. One additional feature that we are working on is dynamic protocol fees. This was suggested many months ago by one of our community members, then seconded by and supported by other community members. It was posted as part of the RFP outlining all the V3 features. It was called dynamic protocol fees. And for those who may not remember, essentially this means that the current split of the protocol fee distribution, so basically 25% for lenders, 60% for DLP lockers, and 15% for OPEX, that could be more dynamic. So currently it's static, so it's always those percentages, but it was suggested that that could be optimized if it were dynamic. So under certain market conditions, for certain chains and certain conditions, we could dynamically change, optimize those percentages. So maybe giving more to lenders, less to lenders, more to DLP lockers, less to DLP lockers, depending, for example, on utilization rates, whenever borrow rates tend to spike. And this essentially means that for anyone super new to lending and borrowing markets, you will have more competitive supply rates when the utilization rates spike. So basically, when a market is highly utilized, so when many people are borrowing from a market, that of course makes utilization rate go up. That makes in turn the borrow rates spike. We've seen those spikes late last year, for example, and we've been working to improve them. But this is a further improvement. In those under those circumstances, the dynamic protocol fee distribution will make the lending side more competitive. So essentially, the lending rates would go up, encouraging more people to supply, and therefore bringing the utilization rate hopefully down. So that's essentially how dynamic protocol fee works. So giving more to lenders when utilization rates spike. That's the TLDR of dynamic protocol fee distribution, and this is an additional feature that will be included and rolled out shortly, and we will of course disclose and explain in even more detail so that everyone knows how it works. Of course, new assets will be added to RIS, and that is an ongoing rollout of assets that we are planning. We have the second batch of assets ready for Arbitrum, but first we're going to complete the deployments of RIS on the rest of the chains. Hung, from your perspective, anything else we should comment on upcoming features? Any of these features that may be worth highlighting even further? Anything you'd like to comment on this new things being rolled out in the coming weeks?
Yeah, just a tangent issue. A lot of people ask about when's V3 dropping. Just remind people V3 is not a monolithic drop, it's a series of releases of pack as a service packs. I'm sorry, feature packs. This first one obviously being a we main headlining RIS markets, and these additional features which just come out in feature packs that are streaming out over time. Right, that's the timeline for I'm sorry, the roadmap for V3. But funny, as you cover, I'm looking at the agenda for today. As you cover the new features and new assets, you've already covered the next item as well, which is the risk use cases. And so I think you're set for that item too.
Well, yes. We started touching upon the RIS 101, but there's a bit more to say. I think to clarify the use cases even further, because something we noted, and of course that's our fault, the team's fault, is that the RIS use cases were not clear enough for many people in the community. So that means we have to put more effort into clarifying, and this is one of the perfect moments to do so. So essentially, we want to explain RIS as clearly, as simply as possible, both to newbies and pros alike. And the way I want to frame it is, imagine Radiant only listed. So before, forget about RIS, forget about all the new assets. Imagine Radiant launched as a new lending and borrowing protocol, brand new, with only two assets, Zero and USDC, for example, just to give the example of the Zero and USDC market on RIS. And anything you can do with Zero and USDC on core, you can do on RIS. So don't think of the new markets as liquidity pools, because sometimes we ourselves have referred as liquidity pools. And yes, there are two assets, but it's not a liquidity pool in the sense of providing 50-50 or 80-20 or only single-sided tokens, and you get an LP token. It has nothing to do with that. So it's two assets that you can do anything with them. So you can supply Zero, you can supply USDC, you can borrow Zero against your Zero, you can borrow Zero against USDC, do anything as if you had them on core markets, and we only had two core markets, for one for Zero, one for USDC. So the same way you have on the core markets, you have your wrap Bitcoin, ETH, and stable coins, and you can deposit any asset and borrow any of the supported assets against your collateral. The same thing in RIS, with the only caveat that it's only within the specific market. So Zero and USDC, you can deposit any of the assets and borrow any of the two assets with respect to your collateral, but only Zero and USDC. So of course you cannot deposit an LRT token, RSETH, and borrow USDC against your RSETH, because they are in different markets. The whole aim, the whole point behind RIS, behind the architecture of RIS, is that it's not like core markets where everything is connected, everything is in the same bucket. In this case, the each of the markets in RIS are fully isolated. So the Zero USDC market is fully isolated from the RS ETH wrapped ETH, or from the ESET ETH wrapped ETH markets. And you cannot, of course, have collateral for Zero and borrow from a different market. You can do anything within the same market, with one important note, that of course we have the vaults, and we had some questions for today regarding the vaults. And the vaults is just a way, like the first simplest door to RIS, if you want. So if you don't have Zero, if you don't have ESET ETH, RSETH, any of the more risk on degen assets that we will gradually add to RIS, you can also take part in RIS by supplying to the vaults. In this case, we have wrapped ETH and USDC. You can, as the same way you could supply those assets to the core markets, you can supply them to RIS, of course with higher yields, also with higher potential risks, and in that way you would be participating in all the markets that are related to that vault. So for example, if you deposit to wrapped ETH and you deposit 0.1 wrapped ETH into that pool, into that vault, you would be participating in all the markets that share that vault. So in this case, RSETH and ESET ETH, because as soon as you deposit your 0.1 wrapped ETH into that vault, it gets distributed, and you can see the percentages. That's something dynamic that the protocol can optimize. But you can check the current percentages, so the target allocations, the target percentages, if that's 75, 25, or whatever. Those will be the percentages sent from that vault to the RIS markets, and a percentage back to the core pools. That's where the vaults get all the yield from, both from core and mainly from the RIS markets, and that's the yield that you see displayed. Of course, higher in normal conditions than what you would get from the core markets, but of course in exchange for a higher risk profile setting. So that's in essence what you can do within RIS, and of course you can go and do your looping. You can go and leverage, which is essentially what we were explaining before. One of the interesting or powerful use cases within RIS, because you don't find the option to leverage this kind of assets elsewhere. So that's something unique to RIS on Radiant, especially more so as we add more and more DGen assets. But you can go and leverage long or short positions on your Zero, your LRTs, your meme coins, your AI tokens, whatever is listed on risk. So those are essentially like the collection of use cases, and I'm sure that our smart brains in the community will come up with some more exciting use cases. But that's like the 101 that I wanted to clarify. It's not a liquidity pool. It's a set of independent, isolated markets, the same way that you operate on core, you can operate on risk. Hung, any clarification from your perspective
Sure.
that you think is worth making at this point
Yeah,
regarding usage of
yeah.
risk?
Again, you did a great job covering the aspects of the core use cases. To say another way, as a drill into it, it's not an LP. You don't come in playing with or having to comply to supplying both asset as a specific ratio, right? It's so much more diverse. You can supply one, borrow the other, or you can borrow one and loop it, right? And you can long, you can short by mixing up the what you borrow and what you lend. So that's the one side of it. The other side of it is, if you have wrap ETH or USDC, but you want to participate on the risk market instead of the core market. The idea here is more risk, more reward kind of thing. But if you want to, you know, as we add more and more assets, as this thing's proven out, it's smooth and safe. That the you see you see in the aggregate, it'll get a lot more degen, right? But let's say you want to ride the wave of these hot new narratives, but you want to reduce your exposure and you want to play it safe. So you go on the vault side, right? On the vault side.
Hung, I think, at least on my side, I lost you. You got cut off. Maybe your mic is off.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know
same
why.
here.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
Okay.
no
My
worries.
screen went
No
off. My
worries.
screen went off, and it automatically put me
We
on the
lost
call.
you. We lost you when you were saying that. Yeah, with if you want to play it safe, you go for the vaults, and then we lost you.
Yeah, yeah. So apparently the screensaver kicks you off the mic. So yeah, so if you excited about the risk side of the market, meaning the more degen side of the markets, and want to participate in this hot new wave of narrative that are behind these assets that are in the risk markets, then you play it safe. You supply the USDC and uh, the wrap ETH that are being used by the risk markets, but particularly when they are trying to loop these things, right? The positions. So that's one way of doing that. It's straddle instead of playing in a quote unquote safe and maybe perhaps boring core market, you on this exciting side, but you want to lower your exposure and just supply the stable and the blue chip for the players to play in the risk markets. You just be supplying the gold digger with shovels, if you will, right? So that's one way to go halfway, and I think that's great to have that.
Absolutely, Hung. So those are, again, in a nutshell, the core use cases, the main use cases. And as you said, Hung, if you want to play it more safe, if you want to go more risk on, you can deploy any of the strategies, not only the ones that were already available on core, but the new ones that we've been explaining on risk. So we could actually say, using the famous Spider-Man quote, that with a greater power comes great responsibility. So that's probably a horrible play on words, but I hope I brought someone's smile. So that's the whole end TLDR bottom line. So you can go more risk on, and you can play it with leverage. You can go risk off, and you can play it safe with the volts, or rely on core plus risk. So that's the essence of what
I,
risk
Isaac,
brings to the.
Isaac,
Yep.
did you just come up with new words as Riz on and
Yeah,
Riz off?
it's risk responsibility. That was a smart one. Come on.
Yeah.
It was a very bad joke because no one laughed, but I laughed at least. But anyway, my humor is too basic, Hung, I'm afraid. But it was smart, I think. It was smart.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, so yeah, that was with great power comes great responsibility. So coming back to the topics that we wanted to cover today, that covers the topics related to RIS, base deployments, RIS 101. Now I wanted to pass it over to you, Hung, to do a quick recap of STIP, and everything and anything you want to highlight regarding STIP, and then we'll wrap it up before we move on to the Q&A, to describe the Galaxy campaign that we've launched, and I'll pass it over to Konstantin and Eliana, the two brains behind the campaign, to explain what the campaign is all about, how it works, what you should do if you were interested. But first, Hung, let's cover STIP and the main highlights since the last office hours.
Sure, sure. So, very quick background. The Arbitrum DAO put out STIP round one sometime back. I think it was March. And we were one of the top protocol to receive a very large allocation of 2.8 million ARBS tokens. And that went to basically all of it went to locking DLPs for lockers. Again, if you pay attention, the lock DLP mechanism in Radiant is the key driver of the flywheel, because it not only create buying pressure, sustained buying pressure for the token, but also it locks it right for from 1 month to 2 months. So, and obviously there's a multiplier. The longer you lock, the more you earn. And same with the STIB one rewards. When it came out, it rewarded more longer locks. So that again is the key thing that differentiate us from other Lightning protocol. That's the innovative piece. Now, having been the first mover down the on-the-chain road and lending with this sort of innovative mechanism in the locked LP, we figured things out along the way, and we've learned a few things and such. One of the community feedback about the round one of STIB is that it all went to lockers and not to lenders. And there was, in response to that, there's a couple of things that Radiant had been trying to do. One of them, Isaac alluded to earlier, about being a new feature, that instead of having a fixed amount, a fixed percentage of the protocol fees that come in from people borrowing and paying interest, a fixed percent of that going to lender, a fixed percent of that going to the lockers. Now the markets, and particularly during these times, they're dynamic, right? We learned, for example, sometimes people are chasing other opportunity in DeFi. They will long their assets and borrow USDC and going out and doing something else with it, and just driving up utilization and the borrow rate spikes, and then people, it gets crazy. And so we're looking for ways to adapt to the conditions of the market, which is too dynamic for us to have fixed numbers. So Isaac alluded to the fact that one of the next few features that come out is going to be dynamic fee distribution or allocation. So when things run hot this way, perhaps we move the protocol fees around, and other incentives perhaps as well. And when it was swing back too far the other way, we'll adjust back instead of having fixed numbers. So that's great. That's one of them. The other is this incentive round two of STIB. You could, all previous qualifier of round one gets 50 up to 50% and we got 50% of that for this round, 1.4 million ARMs. And so this time around, this 1.4 million ARM tokens only go to the new markets that we're launching in the core markets, and then also the RIS side of it, and also with a partner, RedPi. So I'll walk you through that breakdown. So there's really 4 categories, but largely it's just, I can lump it into 3. One is in the core markets. We were launching WeETH and GMX, GM BTC and GM ETH. So those get some allocation. So for WeETH, there's 444,000 are allocated for that market to incentivize it. You have on the GMX side, we have those 2 V2 tokens, blue chips, BTC and ETH. They get about 300K allocated to that. And then RIS, there's kind of 2 sides to RIS. RIS, about 81,000 ARB tokens is going to use SDC Vault. That's being the ones that most needed. And so we incentivize that to make sure that it's the elevated lending numbers there. So that's on the Vault side of RIS. There's also about 160,000 token allocated, set aside for potentially for RIS assets and perhaps even core. It's kind of a free floater kind of number. And also in RedPi, the major partner, if you will, they have a USDC vault over there as well. So we're incentivizing that with 290,000 tokens. There's an WST ETH vault as well for 69,000. And then a DLP rush where you convert, not lot DLP, but DLP that you purchase from the original pool, convert to MDLP, and there's a rush going on. There's 80,000 tokens allocated to that rush. So in total, that's about 1.4. So it's kind of spread around, but mostly they're to support markets, new core markets, RIS markets, and vaults, and RedPi vaults and DLP rush as well. So it's great to have these stimmies, and of course they are the arbitrum. These are short-term incentive program. They're teeing up a long-term incentive program as well. We will obviously participate in.
Cool. Thanks a lot for that run through, Hung. So that recaps everything that's been going on regarding STIP over the past few weeks, and still some weeks to go until it finishes. Now over to Eliana and Konstantin for the highlights of the RIS Up Crypto, the campaign that we are having, and of course, reminder to stay on top of any new assets that we will be adding to RIS. And again, we remind everyone that, of course, depending on performance, some of these assets may eventually move to the core market. So Zero could be moved to the core markets, the LRTs, EZETH and RSETH too, depending on the performance. So that's just a wait and see situation. And we could even list those assets both on core and RIS, of course, with different risk parameters. And that is something that we will analyze depending on performance. So having said that, let's move on to the campaign, the Galaxy campaign. So Eliana, Konstantin, over to you. Maybe Konstantin, you can explain the campaign, and then Eliana, feel free to add any more color that you'd like to whatever you were explaining. Over to you guys.
Hey, thanks, Isaac. And Hung, thanks for having me here. It's been a while. Glad to see everybody, talk to everybody here on the space and those that are going to be joining. I'm going to make this short and sweet, and then I'll let Eliana touch on anything that maybe I don't cover. But we recently just kicked off another Galaxy campaign. This took place or started yesterday at about 3 p.m. Eastern and is set to run until the 9th of September till also 3 p.m. Eastern. Tap in, get involved. It's regarding our RIS markets. The campaign is known as RIS Up Crypto. It's going to be a 4-phase part Galaxy campaign. Could potentially expand depending on when new chains come out. But as of right now, it's 4 phases with a total prize pool totaling over $10,000. So there's multiple ways you can win through completing quests directly and then earning the rewards that were given to us by our partners, and or tapping in and getting involved into the final and or OG prize pools at the very end. The OG is going to be reserved for very specific people, a lot of them being the ones who partook in our previous Galaxy campaign and collected the OAT. As I mentioned, that would be a key for future rewards, and it's now showing up. This campaign is very special as it's not just driven by us, as a lot of our previous ones have been, but it's a larger campaign that's going to be partnered with a lot, if not all, of our RIS partners. So here for phase 1, specifically on Arbitrum, we've partnered with Renzo, Kelp DAO, Stargate, Layer Zero, and OKX. Now I know you're wondering why OKX. We're not listing them in the RIS markets. Well, they believe in the omni-chain vision, the dream, and they were a part of they were willing to get involved and help out with co-marketing as well. So we want to expand this as much as possible. We want to get as many participants in here as possible, and getting listed on their discovery as well as even in their app was a good way to do it. So Galaxy campaign is going on right now, as mentioned, until the September 9th. Multiple ways to win and earn some prizes. So definitely get involved, try out these protocols that have been listed in our RIS markets, and earn some money along the way. If I forgot anything, Eliana, you're more than welcome to chime in.
Hey. Can you hear me? Because I had a little cut off here.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay,
Eliana,
cool.
Loud and clear.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, Konstantin, you cover everything very well. So I think that the only thing that I would like to add is that we are having over $3K in rewards for this first phase. So everything that everyone here who is listening, go check the campaign. I already pinned the thread in this space, so you have it handy there. Then I think that I don't know if you mentioned it, I think no, but only those who complete the 60% of each collection, now we are in the Arbitrum collection, will be able to claim an OAT, and this OAT will give you access to the final prize pool. So it's very important that you complete most of the quests in each collection, so you can have this access to the final prize pool and enjoy all the journey as well. So yeah, I think that with that we are all set and everything clear for everyone. If you have any other questions, always feel free to reach out to us through Discord, Telegram, or any other of the official channels, and we will be happy to assist you.
Lovely, sweet. Thanks both Eliana and Konstantin for that update on the main highlights of the campaign. Go check it out, check the link on our socials, and we'll meet you on the other side with loads of OATs and quests completed for each of you. So, having said that, let's move on to the Q&A session. Of course, any of you today live can ask questions either via Twitter, posting your question directly as a message, or raising up your hand. We will be covering in the meantime the questions that we received prior to the AMA. Those questions are eligible for the golden question. Throughout this Q&A session, Eliana will be revealing the name of the lucky winner of the golden question for today. So the best question, or the question we like the most, will receive the golden question prize, and Eliana will be sharing that in a couple minutes. And in the meantime, let's get going with the questions. We encourage anyone wanting to ask to share your questions. Don't be shy. Send us a message or raise up your hand, and we are super happy to take your questions today. So let's go through the questions. We have a question from Keep Lemau regarding the performance of RIS over the first week. So we covered that already. You can listen again to the AMA if you weren't here from the beginning. Art Dwee asks about the function of the RIS vaults. We explained that, but the question is, the main function of the RIS market is the shared vault system. So USDC and Wrapped ETH. Which of them is simpler, more useful and accurate? Well, we explained that the vaults are a more risk-off hands-off, if you want, approach for those wanting to take part in risk, but not in a specific market, but on the overall market. Of course, this is something you can also do additionally to supplying specific assets. You can supply zero, LRTs, even USDC to specific markets, and also to the vault if that's what you want. So trying to diversify your portfolio and how you allocate your assets. But essentially, the two vaults are a way to participate in the whole of the risk markets following the percentage allocations that you can check in the UI. So that's the aim. The bottom line is that, of course, you get higher yields for those vaults with respect to supplying the same assets on core, but in exchange for higher risks. Some additional questions that we were getting. We got a question from Trevor asking about the details and how new assets are going to be introduced to Radiant. We also covered that topic, very important. And once again, feel free to propose any assets that meet those criteria, or if you're unsure whether they meet the price feed criteria that we mentioned before, just send over those tokens. As long as they are hot and sufficiently solid and robust, so not something that was deployed 2 weeks ago and it's catching traction, it's gaining traction, then that could be eligible for risk. Are there any specific benefits for early adopters? Trevor was asking. Of course, mainly the lower dilution of the RDNT and ARB incentives. So the lower the TVL, the higher the yield, of course, for those who jump onto the train. So the sooner the better in terms of gaining higher amounts of incentives, both for Radiant and for ARB tokens. Can you share more details on how the initial risk performance aligns with the expected outcomes? Well, we shared the details above, and we shared also the room for improvement in terms of speeding up the introduction of new assets and allowing for more risk-on assets to be listed, as Hung was mentioning also, those assets that have no other home or very few homes in the rest of the crypto and DeFi spaces, and that's what we want to list. So strong liquidity, hot tokens without many homes elsewhere, or where crypto, where Radiant in this case can be the first home within crypto for these assets. Some other questions that we have. We have one question as part of the miscellaneous bucket of questions from Risen Crypt. The question is, with the recent market retracement, what's the health status of Radiant? Can you also tell us the mechanism in place that allows the protocol to cope with this market changes? Will there be any innovations in terms of protecting user assets? Well, the main tool that we have in Radiant to check that this is like going to the physician. So the main tool that we have is the Chaos dashboard, and we have that link posted on our socials, and you can go check it out. It's the Chaos Radiant dashboard. If you have questions about the exact link, you can ask, and our mods will share the link with you. But essentially, it's a tool to check the health factor across the whole set of wallets within the protocol, the amount of assets at risk of liquidation, any aspect related to risk is essentially captured by the risk dashboard that Chaos has developed for Radiant. We have asked them to add more things, and they have added those. If there is any other metric, any other KPI, any other indicator that you think is worth adding, of course, feel free to reach out. And if we think, of course, it's relevant and the info is not already displayed, we will reach out to Chaos Labs and ask them to include that, of course. So that's regarding risk. Additional considerations regarding risk, specifically for Riz, the devs developed and designed and built, and this was of course part of the audit, a bad debt management module, which in essence takes care of the bad debt management, bad debt situations, which are of course more prone to occur in Riz, which has a higher risk profile than the core markets. And in the case of the bad debt management, you can of course check the docs for all the details on how this operates. But essentially, there are certain precautionary measures that are implemented, such as limitations on the speed of withdrawals if something happens, the democratization of the bad debt across all the relevant users. So this kind of measures, you can check all the details in the docs, but this is part of the tool set to prevent or to minimize the impact of potential drawdowns of the market, potential bad debt situations, and all the details can be found in the docs. Then we have next question is a question from Ralph Tiddings, centered around chain and liquidity unification. So, for instance, I will pass this on to you, Hung, for instance. And Ralph Tiddings is asking. He usually, I think, he's always sent one or two questions over the past AMAs. So thanks a lot for that, and thanks a lot to all the other people asking questions today. So his question is: I staked Rapti ETH on Arbitrum and staked RS ETH on Base. Can I borrow on mainnet? If yes, does the protocol have a mechanism that prevents liquidation of the supplied assets in the case of market volatility? So, Hung, what's the answer to, can I deposit on one chain, borrow on a different chain, even repay on a third chain? Give us the 101 for this, please.
Yes. So the Omni-chain unified liquidity vision of Radiant had a roadmap, and we had taken 2 steps towards that roadmap, and the final step would be enabling a unified liquidity across all chains. But that's been pushed further down the road because we wanted to react to the market. There's an earlier question about how does Radiant react to the drawdown that's happening across the markets. The introduction of Riz was to do that. We basically interrupted the roadmap of the Omni-chain vision to get Riz in, because the TVL was eroding away from Radiant due to it doesn't look like it of late, but due to the bull market, a lot of users have moved the capital elsewhere to chase harder and sexier assets and DeFi opportunities, if you will. So Riz was to try to stop the bleeding in a sense, and to get us get some back some tailwind in the sale for Radiant, in terms of not wanting to miss out on all these trending narratives. But in doing so, we're interrupting our thing. But however, having said that, we were still first mover in Omni-chain vision, and what you can still do today, and had been since V1, is to borrow from one chain. You borrow an asset chain, and while you're receiving it, you say, I want to receive it in a different chain. So any of the 4 chains we support, you can pick largely there's a dependency. These 4 chains, right? They have some support, some Stargate support, Stargate to be in the router, support for certain assets. So any combination of one chain having an asset that could be moved to another chain that's supported by Stargate, you can do that since V1. Right? You can borrow ETH in one chain and have it sent to another chain as Rapti or something like that. So that's you can do today. But unfortunately, to pay it back, you had to move it back to that same chain that you borrow from to repay it. So I would say we're 2/3 maybe of the way there up to the unified Omni-chain market. But right now, even though you can borrow and send to other chains, everything's starting to settle on the same chain.
Absolutely, Hung. That's key, and this leads me to the last set of questions. We're coming to the top of the hour, so we will be wrapping this show up soon. The last set of questions that we got were related to community. Some minor questions before that, because there were a couple people, I think Budluck and Tursen, if I pronounce that correctly, were asking about our next targets down the road, so next chains. And of course, regarding next chains, we don't want to over-dilute the Radiant emissions, so send emissions to many chains, because that would be absolutely manageable. So we really want to focus on chains where Radiant can be a top leader among the top lending and borrowing protocols of that chain, and for chains which are interested in incentivizing themselves or supporting additional incentives that mean that we don't have to over dilute the Radiant emissions for many chains. So we will be super picky, super stringent with the selection of chains. And then moving on to the community questions, because the facts Hung was alluding to regarding moving from the cross-chain vision of finishing that last step of being able to repay from any chain and moving on to prioritize aspects like risk and the other features included in V3 was mainly because when we reached out to the community was most interested in these other features. So of course there are people interested in the repayment from a third chain. But when we weighed the effort required with the amount of users interested from the feedback that was gathered on socials, it was apparent that people were more supportive of aspects like risk that could bring in more TVL and fees rather than other aspects which could bring, so to say, ease of use or UX seamlessness, which are very important and will be there in the roadmap, but not as high a priority, unfortunately, as risk or other features that we've included in V3. So we had to change focus and focus on the top priorities first, because of course we cannot tackle everything at the same time. Having said that, some questions we got from the community were related to how the community can take part more closely in the future of the Radiant protocol, what initiatives we are planning to get the community more involved. And Lufso, for example, was asking about future integrations in certain parts of the world, specifically in South America, where he or she is leaving. So essentially, what we can say is that the community, of course, has been involved by the RFP voting, but we want to encourage more community involvement, and that is something on our to-do list. And we are working internally to produce a proposal based on all the ideas that have been shared regarding community council. And this is something that, to be honest, has not been tackled yet. We haven't been able to tackle it fully, and mostly because we were focused on okay, we roll out risk, we'll roll out all the rest of the V3 features, one-click trading strategies, and the dynamic protocol fee distribution fee that we will be rolling out soon. And then we focus fully on the community council proposal. We want to think it through well, share it with the community, gather feedback. So that is a tool to ensure that the community can take part more closely in deciding the future rather than simply voting on the RFP. So that's regarding community involvement. Hung, do you want to maybe add something as a DAO administrator regarding this last set of questions before we wrap it up and we announce the winner of the golden question?
Sure, and you didn't let me off the hook on being a DAO admin. So I'll add some color in a sense, both answering the question about the social level engagement and the roadmap question as well. Generally, there's three layers of interaction and collaboration. Excuse me. The first is socializing ideas and feature enhancements or whatever, or even larger issues in Discord, and just to mix it up with either in general, or if you have a Starfleet role that tend to be you can get more engagement there, and even collaboration. And so that's where you can start. But if you have you want to move away from all the noise at some point, or right off the bat, you know what you want to talk about. You want to use the feedback side of the forum, which runs on on the web version that we have. And then you can do. There's two sides to the forum of the community. One side, as I mentioned, is a less official side called feedback, and you can run stuff there. It's like a trial balloon and see what kind of support you might get. if you want to get at some point get serious about a proposal, you use a proposal template and put it up as a proposal, and that will go through its own discussions and some unofficial voting and such, and then once you get to the point where it's reviewed and by the council and passed on to a snapshot vote, that's where the true voting begins, and the power of voting is based on how much RDNT you own, and that can be in any form on any chain, meaning it could be in your something you're hodling in your wallet, which counts, or it could be part of an LP that you locked into Radiant, that counts too, and it could be on any chain or multiple chain, it be aggregated up, and that's your voting power. Yeah, so hopefully that clears things up a little bit.
Thanks a lot for that clarification. So let's go then to the award-winning announcement. So Eliana, your golden moment, announce the golden question and all the other great awards that we have for today. So over to you.
Great, thanks guys. Excellent show, by the way. Also, before proceeding with the announcement of the winners for today's show, I just wanted to let you all know about our Sealy community, more than anything, that we are also planning to add something cool there for our Galaxy campaign as well. So as we said and mentioned to you before, keep going and keep completing quests in Sealy so you can climb the leaderboard, and we will make sure that you are well rewarded for this, and just keep an eye, so we will let you all know about these updates in the coming days. Now that we have mentioned that, let's do the golden question prize, and we can wait to announce this because it is also related to our race that we are doing these days, and the winner is Risen Crypt. So thank you all for submitting your questions, for participating, and Risen Crypt, congratulations. We will be sending your prize through the wallet that is connected to your Sealy profile. And now I think that we are good to announce also the winner for the live giveaway. Okay, I see the thumbs up. So today's winner is, oh no, I had it here, but he isn't anymore with us. So well, we'll have to
last
choose
minute
another
things,
one.
last minute issues.
Yeah, I saw that he or she was here since the start, so it's a pity. Well, it's a good lesson for you, all you here listening. Just keep till the end, because you never know
until the end.
You will be. Yeah. Okay, let's do another one and see here in my list. Just 1 second. We are almost there. Okay, I think that we have one winner, and it's our loyal user called Trevor. Young Charlie, you are there. Congratulations. Thanks for joining us once more. We will send you your prize to your wallet address. We will let you know once this is done. And well, thanks everyone for joining us, and keep close to the announcement, as I mentioned before, for all the upcoming rewards and cool campaigns that we are hosting. Thank you, everyone.
Lovely, Eliana. Thanks for those prize announcements, those award announcements. So thanks a lot. And we love the name, by the way, of Risen Crypt for the golden question. We had picked the winner, and then Eliana spotted that his name had a bit of Riz in it, so we all had a good laugh. So thanks everyone for those questions. We encourage everyone to send more questions for the golden question for the next AMA next month, always on the third week of the month, as always. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks to those who listened to the recording. Thanks Eliana, Hung, Konstantin, as always, for making the show possible. Thanks to you attending. You're the most important part of the show, of course. And a final note to go check out the Galaxy campaign and let's all together raise up crypto. Bye now, and everyone, wish you a radiant day, as Konstantin likes to say. Bye.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. See you. Cheers.